Welcome to Southern Fried Baseball, presented by College Baseball Central, with your hosts, Jake Mckeever and Andrew Riedell. Southern Fried Baseball brings you everything SEC baseball, all the way to Omaha.
Welcome in, College Baseball Central fans of the SEC. Welcome into a new intro, Southern Fried Baseball. Season 2 of Southern Fried Baseball. Thought we would dress up the occasion with a new theme song. Andrew, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Yeah, a new intro. I'm finally part of the intro, so that
Yes,
feels
that
good.
was the biggest thing is we had to wait for Andrew to get baptized officially. Doing the back eight, if you will, if this is a golf analogy of the SEC. Got Missouri, the two Mississippi schools, OU, the two Texas schools, followed by Vandy. Andrew, as we dawn into these final teams, let's start with a little bit of a easy one. The Missouri Tigers, they only won 3 games last year. They only won one series in the SEC. They are losing their best player, Jackson Lovich. They are losing their Friday guy, Ian Loesch, to the draft. Pierre Seals, the Memphis transfer, is gone. But outside of that, I mean, Missouri retained a ton of their talent. They had a pretty underrated portal class as they get Donovan Jordan and Jamal George, two SEC guys, along with Jace Wada out of South Carolina. It's still a Missouri team that's building blocks. How did you feel about their portal class?
I like their portal class. I think that Jose Calbaro, who runs their recruiting over there at Missouri, I thought he did a phenomenal job. It's like they're bringing in a big influx of freshmen this year. You kind of just got to trim the fat with what happened last year happened last year. Missouri promised them more resources to be able to compete. I really like the additions they made. Two under the radar additions they made. Kyler Gonzalez, Nova Southeastern transfer. He was their Friday night guy. He is a mid to upper 90s guy. He's a very good pitcher. And Cam Durnan tore it up playing summer ball this year. I felt like every day I was opening up Twitter, I just see a Cam Durnan highlight. Like he really turned it up this summer.
Yeah, and I should say this. I mean, this time last year when we were talking about Donovan Jordan and Jamal George, who it didn't work out at their respective Texas schools, but I mean, Jamal George was in the mix to be a starting position. He played a lot of meaningful innings out in left field after the injuries, and I mean, Donovan Jordan. There was a time too where he was the talk of the town during those winter workouts. So if either of those guys can return to where they were the year before at JUCOs and at SWAC schools respectively, I mean, it's a solid squad. They are replacing Sam Horn, who was their Saturday guy. Brady Kelbrink is coming back along with Josh McDevitt. But again, I think it's one of the better freshman classes, I think, in the SEC, which is what we're going to really see from Missouri is they're going to have to build it from the freshman classes.
Well, as one of our colleagues, Micah Butel, just said, trust the process.
Yes, I think we are in year 2 of Micah's that Missouri is going to get to Omaha in the next 3 years. It's going to have to start this year. Like I said, Brock Daniels, I think, is one of the best players on this team. He returns for another year. Jackson Lovich at short did miss some time with an injury, so they do have some experience coming back. They're one of the more experienced teams in the SEC, but it's a team that didn't win a ton of games last year.
Yeah, and they're also losing Sam Horn, who signed with the Dodgers, and he is playing football still at Missouri, but they are losing Sam Horn, who really, I mean, if there was a bright spot for the Missouri Tigers last year, it was Sam Horn pitching.
Yeah, Brock Daniels is another one that I said he's already coming back. Jarek Curtis hit the portal. They had a lot of portal entries. But not too many guys portaled up, which is, I think, a really sign of a strong program is that they have guys that they feel like, are transferring to get playing time, not necessarily because of a toxic culture. I think it's weird because for as bad as they were last year, I felt like they had a good culture. I mean, that A&M one, when they swept them, like that was towards the back half of the year. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the country that had already given up at that point. And I think it really showed the culture that they were building at Missouri. But again, they do have the longest drought among College World Series teams, among any SEC team. They have the longest tournament drought in the SEC. They're at a severe disadvantage when it comes to SEC talent. They're kind of the lone northernmost team, similar to Kentucky. They don't have the coaching staff that Kentucky has. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of where Missouri goes from here, because the only way is up. I know we said that last year, but the only way is up for Missouri.
Yeah, I trust Carrick Johnson. For all the bad we spoke about Missouri last year with their record and everything, the one thing that I continue to preach is that Carrick Johnson is a phenomenal coach. His players love playing for him. It's not like he lost the clubhouse at any point last year. It was just nothing was clicking.
Yeah, I mean, he is highly, highly, highly revered. I mean, every single coach that we talked to raves about how good of a coach he was. When he was at Memphis, he did a fantastic job. Let's move on to probably one of the longest portal enters and exits, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Obviously, they're headlined by Brian O'Connor coming in. Big, high turnover in that roster. On paper, they're losing Joel Powell, who played catcher, Bryce Chance in the outfield, Ross Heifel, Nolan Sullivan, Sawyer Reeves, Reed Stallman, Aaron Downs, Nolan Stevens, Michael O'Brien, Dylan Cupp, all played meaningful innings for this team in the field. They lose their entire weekend rotation in Pico Khan, Evan Sierra, Carson Ligon, Luke Dodson, and Nate Williams are two other ones, with Cato Leary and, again, two-way Nolan Sullivan and Stone Simon also moving on. But, I mean, it's a long list of guys coming in. Let's talk about the guys that they didn't get. Henry Ford, Evan Blanco didn't follow them over. There's a ton of Virginia guys on here, but I think it was kind of the weird one of I was asking myself, why do you think those guys didn't follow Coach O'Connor to Mississippi State? They instead went to a different SEC school.
I think Henry Ford went to Tennessee because, one, he's familiar with that area, in that Tennessee area, and it's a friendly ballpark at a Lindsey Nelson, so he has a legitimate shot at winning the Golden Spikes this year, playing in that ballpark. We're talking about 25, 30 home runs easily. Evan Blanco, I think he needed a little bit of a reboot. I think that was kind of like a mutual thing of O'Connor saying maybe you need to go do your own thing. I understand I have my own pitching coach here at Mississippi State, but I don't think you would gel in the SEC at Mississippi State. And I think he ends up at Tennessee. I think it's a very good fit. Bradley Hodges was another guy. He was a draft risk. He ends up at South Carolina. We'll talk about South Carolina in a minute, but I just think these are they saw just different opportunities elsewhere. And
Can I give a hot take on Henry Ford?
Yeah.
I don't think Henry Ford starts on this Mississippi State team with the portal guys that they brought in and the talent that they're bringing back. I don't think he had a spot that was as guaranteed as it is at Tennessee. I know that sounds crazy because he was, top 100 pick, but I don't know where he would play in this lineup.
I mean, you find a way for him to play. It's also not guaranteed that all these guys in the green, it's the only, I think the only two names you can maybe lock in 100% is Ace Reese and Garrick Friel.
Yeah, I think Garrick Fry, and again, he's another one where you don't really know where he's going to play just because he played second base, he played outfield. But, I mean, Aiden Teal, you can pretty much lock in. There's a ton of other guys. Sean James, I bet you, is going to play a ton of meaningful innings. That was just the one thing. I know that we talked about Mississippi State on Monday, but that was just the one thing that I kind of wanted to bring up as we, dove a little deeper.
Yeah.
Moving on to their upstate rival, the Ole Miss Rebels. They are losing Luke Hill, Mitchell Stanford, and Isaac Humphrey in their graduate years moved on. Ryan Mormon he graduated. Campbell Smithwick transferred out. Luke Chang is out too as well. I think the biggest story for me with this team is that Hayden Federico didn't enter the portal. He was kind of the odd man out at times for this team, but he played a lot of meaningful innings as a freshman. There's tons of rumors about tampering where he was going to go. Ultimately, he stayed put, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of where they play him in this upcoming year.
Yeah, I mean, looking with the guys coming in, Don Decker played second base at Murray State. He's going to have to contend with Judd Uttermark, who coming back for his junior year.
I think they're going to move Uttermark to third. He always felt like a weird fit at second.
I mean, and then majority of I think Marco Spilia, he was an offensive player too, but majority of the people they're bringing in are pitchers. Like you see all the purple right here. I mean, big get like big big landing of Hunter Elliott staying. That's huge. But you're losing Riley Maddox, Mason Nichols, Mason Morris, who we debated every weekend. It felt like that this kid should be in the starting rotation. But you also lost Ryan Rodriguez to the portal. He goes to Houston. You're losing a lot of guys that had a key chunk of innings, and I'm just not that impressed with the portal class coming in. I think Dom Decker's phenomenal. I think Tristan Becerra, he's phenomenal. I think Pasella and Spelia, I think they're good players they're bringing in. I'm just questioning why didn't they bring in that much, because I don't see them relying on freshman arms. It feels like this is going to be a recipe for disaster, where we saw Liam Doyle give up the walk-off home run to end their season.
They can hit, though. I mean, it's an experienced lineup. Owen Pano is another guy that played a ton of meaningful games for him. They get Foley back behind the plate. Utermark's, I think, a 20 home run guy next year. But it's just like a scrappy lineup it's an old scrappy lineup.
Yeah.
The pitching's going to have a lot of question marks. I think that's probably where we're going to spend a big chunk of their fall stuff, is how the pitching staff kind of evolves. But I mean, it's a typical Bianco team, I think, in a good way.
Yeah. But
Dom Decker was probably the easiest recruit ever. I mean, I was sitting there in the press conference, and they talked about how much he loved to play there, and how they circled it on their calendar so they could go in and play. That was probably the easiest recruit, I think, of the year for him.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to going up to Ole Miss in a couple weeks. Hopefully, there's something for the media to go watch, but I'm hoping to go do some Ole Miss action in a few weeks.
Yeah, Will Furnace is another guy that's coming back. He was kind of on that fringe where you thought he might go. He ends up coming back. Luke Hill, I think that's going to be the big bat that they're going to miss. He was just kind of the mainstay in this lineup. He was kind of the constant. He always hit. They're going to have to replace him. Is it going to be Hayden Federico? Do they slide Jed Utermark or Dom Decker over to third? That's really going to be the biggest question for me. It's kind of what their balancing looks like. Moving on to the Oklahoma Sooners, this is another team that lineup-wise isn't replacing a ton. Easton Carmichael behind the plate is drafted. Dawson Willis, the JUCO guy, got drafted. Sam Christensen transferred out. Scott Mudler is out of eligibility. Those are really the only two guys that played from a bench standpoint. And then the strength of their team, this pitching staff, they all moved on. Kyson and Malachi were both drafted. Cade Crossland was drafted. Crooks was out. Jamie Hitt ate a ton of innings for him. But, I mean, they got some good arms out of the portal, and they got some bats out of the portal. I think it's a really underrated class that kind of did a good job just finding guys. Because, again, it's not easy to get portal guys to commit when there's only one spot up for grabs. Like Walk Harris and Gimbel in the outfield really took big steps forward. Dickerson, I think, is another guy that's really going to play a lot of meaningful innings and get a lot of ABs for him. But the pitching, which is kind of Skip Johnson's hallmark, they got a couple underrated guys, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm going to start on the obvious third base. Dawson Willis is gone. You just slide in Camden Johnson right there. Camden Johnson raked at Wichita State last year. And then pitching, you just kind of fill in the blanks with Nolan Stevens, LJ Miracuris from UNLV, Caden Brumbaugh, Joey McManus, Jackson Cleveland. You fill in the blanks with those guys because, you did lose a lot of arms that could have been potential starters next year. Bo Sampson, he goes to Tulane. Jackson Kersher, he goes to South Carolina, I believe. You lost a lot of potential arms, but you bring in a lot of quality arms, as you just said. This is Skip Johnson's specialty. So I trust the guys that he brought in. He didn't have to do that much recruiting, in my belief, because I think the freshman class they do have coming in is really good, that they can make an instant impact. I mean, we saw with Kyle Branch this year, and Drew Dickerson had some innings as well. So it's I trust the freshmen that Oklahoma's bringing in.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that I think really excels at finding freshman roles. You mentioned Nolan Stevens from Mississippi State. Do you think that they use him in a two-way role? I know that they use They
I
had
think they
Keith
start.
Horton in a two-way role not too long ago.
I think they transitioned him into a pitcher. I think his specialty is a pitcher, but we'll see.
Jason Bodine is another guy who was just another. When I got to see him, he just seemed like he ate 8 innings and could kind of stand up and take over that role that Crooks vacated. It's a really, really underrated team, though. I think much like last year, they're not going to have these. I mean, they don't have these big headliners like they had in Malachi and Kyson Witherspoon last year, and even Cam Johnson to some extent. But I mean, it's a really good hitting team, and they were a really good hitting team last year at times. They get Dayton Taki back, who's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, filling in the catching spot, losing Easton Carmichael behind the plate is a big loss, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, but like I trust the guys they have. It's like,
I mean, that's going to be a big loss. He was the captain. He managed the staff.
I'm
But Mudler caught a lot of those games, so I know that Easton Carmichael is an incredible bat. He's a once in a class type of player. But if you would have told Skip Johnson this time last year, hey, the only guy that we're going to need to replace is the JUCO third baseman who batted ninth, who ended up having a fantastic season, and your DH, I'm sure he would take that.
Yeah, you'd take that every day.
I think this is a top 25 squad. I would even go as far as say it's a top 15 squad.
Yeah, I like what they bring him back. Pitching's just right now.
Pitching's a big question mark, but Skip Johnson, that really is kind of his hallmark.
Yeah.
Moving on into the South Carolina Gamecocks, maybe one of the most roller coaster teams. Is that kind of the right word?
Yeah.
They are replacing a ton of guys that were kind of mainstays on the program. Paul Maneri's second season, I think his hands are more on the roster this year. I know that when we talked about him, at the beginning of the year, he said, there's a lot of it was an old team last year. He really didn't have to do a lot. Max Coffer behind the plate is now at Wichita State. Jordan Carrion is out of eligibility. Blake Jackson, Evan Stone, Kennedy Jones, Dalton Mershon are all out. Nolan Naraki hits the portal. Will Tippett hits the portal. I believe Caden Gaskin is another one. Talamaj LaCroix. While he was injured, I think he does get another year of eligibility. Nathan Halligan was drafted. From a staff standpoint, Matthew Becker ends his career. Dylan Eskew ends his career. It was a weird year. And before we talk about the big portal class, what did you think of so many of their guys hitting the portal? Is it Paul Maneri cleaning shop? Is it guys running away from Paul Maneri? What are you kind of seeing there?
I think it's a little bit of a mixture of both. You kind of trim the fat with you got your first taste of okay, who is a Paul Maneri type of player? Who's a Paul Maneri type of player? Who is a Coach Rooney kind of player? Who can handle the way they coach? Because a lot of what we heard was, Coach Maneri is an old school coach. How is he still coaching in 2025? Yeah, I don't think it was any of that. It's maybe it's okay. I'm a little bit softer than what I was, or than I thought I was. Maybe I just need to go somewhere else. I think I love Paul Maneri. I love Coach Rooney and the staff down there. I think they did a phenomenal job of replacing and bringing in players that are going to come and build to Paul Maneri's game.
Did want to clarify something because I thought this was the case and I just looked it up. Henry Kazmar is back at Ohio State.
Yes, so he went South Carolina, Ohio State, South Carolina, back to Ohio State.
Yeah, but I mean, they do get Bo Hollins. They do get KJ Scobie, which I think are two. I wonder if they'll move KJ Scobie over to shortstop, by the way. Because didn't he play there a little bit in the summer?
Yeah, I think he played a little bit everywhere.
He's a good athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, as a true freshman, he definitely felt like the best hitter on this team. He was the most consistent. I would say him or Kennedy Jones. But again, let's jump into that portal. There's a lot of names, period. Who really jumps out at you on this list?
So before I get there, I got to talk to some of the South Carolina staff, and they told me straight up, we wanted to address some needs. I straight up said to them, "You're losing Ethan Petrie. That's a pretty big loss, huh?" And they said, well, like it's really hard to replace one of the greatest hitters in South Carolina history, but like you just kind of got to bring in pieces that can replicate what he did, basically the Moneyball scheme. They said their three big strategies of bringing in guys was bringing in power arms, power bats, and left-handed bats, and that's what they did. I mean, Luke Gussie from UL, he's phenomenal. George Gregory from ULM, that's a power arm. Bradley Hodges, we just talked about, that's a power arm. Ethan Lizama, that's a power bat. Alex Valentine and Alex Philippet from Texas State and Florida, those are power arms. So I think this is probably my favorite portal class that we'll talk about today. I'm looking at like the next four, and I'm going to say the same thing about each one probably. But this is my favorite portal class probably because of the needs that were addressed, and like they just honed in on what they wanted and needed to do and brought in guys that are going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for reference, Alex Valentine's the guy who struck out those Texas kids and went super viral. He's a under the radar chip on your shoulder, which, I mean, you need to be in the SEC, especially with South Carolina where it was last year. They need somebody like that to come in and kind of give them the edge. You mentioned power arms. I think the complete 180 of this is Bryce Navarre coming in from Texas. He's a kid that I got to see in high school. Finesse lefty, extremely, extremely good curveball. Ida Scott Point was a 70 grade curveball. He's low 80s, high 80s, low 90s. He can just come in, I think, and eat at innings. When I talked to Max Weiner about it this time last year, he said that he could perceive him as a weekend rotation guy in a few years. And that really is, I think, what they're getting. Tyler Back from Wolfert's another guy that really, really impresses me too as well. And then Ethan Lizama coming over from Western Kentucky. He's a guy that I really got to see too that really stood out to me. But these feel more like Maneri guys in a good way. I mean, Rooney guys, Maneri guys. And again, we've talked to some of the former players that played under Maneri. He is not an easy coach to play with in a good way. He wants to win. That was very evident at the A&M series that I was at, which sounds really stupid to say on paper, but he gave a shit. He's not just sitting in the dugout, hanging out.
He's not just collecting a paycheck. He's trying to get back to Omaha. It's crazy to say this, but like he's trying to go. Like he's trying to win it all.
Yeah, because I mean, I would say since his retirement, he's probably the one that everybody questions the most at LSU. No one questions Skip Bertman, and no one's questioning Jay Johnson after winning 2 of 3. And they're actually blaming a lot of it on Paul Maneri. Paul Maneri is still a coach that has a ton to prove. This is a roster that I think has a ton to prove. And it's a proud, proud program. And I don't think the 2025 squad lived up to the reputation that South Carolina had built, for better or for worse.
Agreed.
They had the injury bug a lot. So if they can stay healthy, they'll get Telemage LaCroix back. Kind of what they do with him, I think, will be one of the things that we track all fall. But I think it's a better squad. I mean, this is a squad that finished 15th in the SEC. I think they're better than 15th this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on to the Tennessee Volunteers, who, by their standards, had a disappointing team last year. They are replacing a ton. Cannon Peebles behind the plate, Andrew Fisher, Dean Curley, Gavin Keelan were all drafted, while Hunter Ainsley is out of eligibility. Dalton Bargo hit the portal, along with Colby Backus and Brandon Sharp. From a rotation standpoint, Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips both both got drafted, along with AJ Russell, Tanner Franklin, and Nate Snead. Dylan Loy was a guy that they used a ton. He hit the portal. And outside of that, I mean, there's a lot of guys that played a lot of meaningful innings early. Jay Abernathy, Ariel Antigua, Levi Clark, Stone Lawless, that are back again. And they're another one where they used the LSU style where they went big game hunting.
Yeah, but they did go big game hunting. Like, you could probably fill out the lineup with the guys they're bringing in. I mean, Henry Ford and Blaine Brown will probably play the corner outfield, with Reese Chapman sliding over to center field now. Or no, Blaine will probably play center. My bad. Bo Ruddy, Mack, Hindi, Blanco, Frederick will slide into the pitching rotation pretty easily. Finley Bates will play second base. Garrett Wright will catch. and then you'll probably have a shortstop and shortstop competition with Antigua and whichever freshman bat is hot. But you also got to remember the freshmen they got coming in. They got some really big freshmen coming in. It's Tony Vitello. I mean, it's crazy to see. Like, you look at this, you see the portal out is twice as long as the people they're bringing in. It's like they know the talent they're bringing in. They know they bring in a top 10 freshman class every year. But they're like, okay, we just need to adjust the pitching scheme a little.
Yeah,
I think Evan Blanco, like bring in Bo Ruddy, bring in Mac, Blaine Brown might pitch for them. Like, you never know.
Yeah, he pitched a little bit for him. If there's any Tennessee fans that are also Tennessee Titans fans, Blaine Brown's dad, Chris Brown, was a running back for the Titans. So he is back there. He was also for the Texans. So that's why I lived in Houston. He's a guy that I got to watch a ton going to Rice games. He has the potential to have an Ace Reese type year if things click for him. He's got a few things that I think he needs to work on mentally in order to kind of take his game to the next level. Henry Ford, draft eligible sophomore that's ended up back for his junior year. Which Henry Ford are we going to see? Are we going to see the one that we saw his freshman year where you're like, this kid's going top 10 in the draft? Are we going to see the one that hits, single digit home runs most of the year? That really is what I think Tennessee is going to have to answer to, is that Jay Abernathy, I think, is another one that has to be in the mix, I think, for those outfield spots.
Abernathy and Levi Clark. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Henry Ford DH a lot this year, just to keep him off his feet, it feels like. But like Levi Clark, Levi Clark was a guy like coming in last year, like his name was thrown around a lot. Like, this is going to be a big, big star. And then kind of started off hot and then kind of just cooled off. But that was just.
I want to give another hot take. We need to have like a hot take alert, like sound or something. I think Tennessee takes a step back. I think that they finally pay the piper for all of the experienced talent that they've had come in.
I agree, because I just don't see, like, I like this class coming in, but I just don't think it moves the needle. You're replacing Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips with, hypothetically, Evan Blanco and Landon Mack. Okay, you're replacing a hard-throwing lefty with a soft-tossing lefty who's coming off an injury, and then Marcus Phillips, a hard-throwing righty. You're coming back with Landon Mack, who is, I will give Landon Mack respect. He will probably be a phenomenal pitcher there, but I just don't think it moves the needle. I don't think, like, if you put Marcus Phillips and Landon Mack on the same scale, I'm putting Marcus Phillips over Landon Mack right now.
But here's the thing, is Liam Doyle this time last year was a 5 ERA guy coming over from Ole Miss, and Marcus Phillips was a JUCO guy with single-digit innings that Tony V turned into first-rounders.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of high upside when they were coming in. Evan Blanco, Coach O'Connor would rave about him when we would talk about him, but he's going to have to take that next step forward. And for the better part of the entire year, Tennessee didn't have a Sunday guy, nor did they really have a ton of depth in the bullpen. They had a lot of guys that could go out there and throw an inning, and when everything went according to plan, they kind of ran out of those. But when things didn't go according to plan, that's where Tennessee kind of got into a ton of trouble.
I mean, that's why
they're not going to hit as good either. I mean, they're replacing a lot. Fisher went in the first round. Curley went in the first, or Keelan went in the first round. If Curley doesn't get the yips, he probably goes in the first round.
Yeah,
those are big. Hunter Ainsley, a mainstay in the Tennessee program, is another guy that's not easy to replace, and they're doing all of that without a pitching staff. So is it going to be the Arkansas method where they're getting these 1-year rentals and, Tony V's really good at making a mesh, or do they have the LSU 2024 where they take a big step back?
I agree. I mean, that Sunday, it's like that Sunday against LSU that you got to see, like we heard that it was going to be AJ Russell starting. And it's like, okay, let's see what version of AJ Russell we're going to see. Are we going to see the one that strikes out the side, throwing 96, 98, topping 100? Or is he going to be the one throwing 90, 92? Tegan Kuhns, I'm a big fan of Tegan Kuhns. He was up in the Cape this summer. He had a dominant summer again. I think he'll be the Friday night favorite going into fall camp, but I would also watch out for Landon Mack and Evan Blanco, but I'm a big Tegan Kuhns fans.
I think this is another one where I'm really excited to kind of see what they have, because Josh Elender and Tony V have done so good recruiting a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
They get elite talent. I mean, that's the thing too, is I was really worried when Wes Johnson came over from Georgia that Tennessee recruiting would take a step back because they recruited that area of Georgia so well. And lucky for Tennessee, Georgia's gone really old and they've got a lot of portal guys. So it's allowed Tennessee to continue to recruit at the rate that they were, pre-Wes Johnson at Georgia. We'll talk about them a ton in the fall. They're probably going to be a top 10 team, but this just feels like the team that I'm selling stock in.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on to the Texas A&M Aggies. They have kind of a hodgepodge of they're bringing back a ton of guys. They're returning a ton of guys. They got some guys out of the portal. They are replacing Gavin Cash at first base. Caden Kent was drafted by the Yankees. Wyatt Hensler is out of eligibility. Jace Lavalette went to the Cleveland Guardians. Hayden Schott is out of eligibility. Mike Bergervin is out of eligibility. Jamal George is at Missouri, like we mentioned. They are replacing a workhorse staff. Ryan Prager, Justin Lampkin, and Miles Patton ate up a ton of those innings. Starting pitching usage was the highest in the SEC for Texas A&M. Caden Wilson and Luke Jackson were also drafted as well. Shane Tadeo spurs the draft. Not so lucky with Blaine Brown. Pitching-wise, Kyron LeBlanc hits the portal. He didn't really pitch a ton. Isaac Morton. They get a lot of their bullpen back. They're going to have to find some starting pitching out of that portal.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ethan Darden will come in and start. Carson Bailey will probably be their Friday night starter, in my opinion. NJ Bollinger, I think he'll stick in the bullpen just because that's what he's so good at. I got to see him throw at FAU this year, and I've gotten to see him work in the past. But Ethan Darden and Chris Bailey would be my favorites to start in the rotation. But you also bring back Blake Labuda, Elijah Batista, like former D2 bandits that got that extra D1 year back and found a way to a D1 program.
Travis Chestnut is back for A&M fans. I don't know how that kid still has eligibility, by the way. I did the math. I don't know how he does.
So, okay. I want to make this clear because I also played 6 years. There is going to be a team that gets bit in the ass by this 6-year rule. I don't know what team it is because whenever me and you reached out to NCAA officials, they're like, yeah, we got told 2 different things, or we got told 5 different things. I think one
by people in the same room. We should clarify that.
Yes, by people in the same room that talk to each other every day, probably. And they were telling us, yeah, we really don't know. It all depends on the Pavia case. So we were getting told 2 different things. I think some team is going to get a bit in the butt about this. And I just don't know which team. I don't know if it's going to be a big SEC school or it's going to be a lowly Southland school again.
We should clarify that what we were told last year around the Alberto Ozuna thing is the Pavia ruling was going to take into effect the 2025 and 2026 season. But he didn't play. Travis Chestnut played at St. Edwards. Yeah, so I don't know how that works. Travis Chestnut, it's not the same case of Travis Chestnut and Alberto Ozuna. They're 2 completely different things.
I just don't get it.
I can't believe we've gone this far without talking about him. Chris Hakopian from Maryland. Was a massive get out of the portal. He was, I think, one of the most prized shortstops in the portal. Him and his brother were just flat out studs at Maryland. I think he's going to be the Caden Kent replacement. They get Gavin Grahovic back to play third. He's pretty healthy. Caden Sorrell is going to be back to 100%. They get Terrence Keel out in the outfield. There's not a lot of spots up for grabs, I feel like. First base, I don't know what they're going to do with Sawyer Farr, who played left field, who played second base, wasn't comfortable at second base. Ben Royo's back for another year. It's, like we mentioned, it looks on paper, they're replacing 4 of their 9. Grahovic's back. Benderup played a ton. It just feels like they just have a ton of guys that I think are going to be unfortunately disappointed that they transferred to A&M because they're not going to play.
I am worried about this A&M team. No Ivy League guys. No, Hayden Schott is throwing a fit on LinkedIn right now. So, yeah. I mean, Jake Dewar, he comes in. He's coming off a toe injury that ended his season at FAU last year. He's coming in. He'll probably slide into that third outfield spot or that DH role. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you bring in all these guys, like, and the two big ones, in my opinion, were Jake Dewar and Chris Kopian. Those guys.
I should say two interesting facts about Jake Dewar. He went to high school with Caden Sorrell. Like they're the same age. They both went to Flower Mound Marcus. I remember seeing him in the fall at TCU and not like remembering him. Like I remember watching him and remembering his name, but he didn't do anything to stand out. He goes over to Florida Atlantic, absolutely balls out. I think Wesley Jordan's kind of a similar thing. I know he played a ton at Baylor, but he was a guy that it's weird. I didn't feel like those two guys were SEC guys, which, I mean, they have a chance to prove, I think, everybody wrong, but this feels like more of a Michael Early under the radar. We see something that everybody else in the country doesn't see in Jake Dewar and Wesley Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Which I know that you and I talked about this, about the talent that A&M had last year. This wasn't Early's guys. They were Schloss's guys, and they had different philosophies. And I think that was where a lot of the hang-up was that they had a lot of different philosophies that were kind of coming in. They get Cliff Pennington as the hitting coach. I think Michael Early's taking a more hands-on approach. But the flip side of that is, I mean, this roster is just too expensive to miss the tournament 2 years in a row. That is just the cold, hard truth about it.
I agree.
From a pitching standpoint, like I said, they do get Shane Sadejo back. They do get Josh Stewart back. Gavin Lyons, Weston Moss, Clayton Freshcorn. These are guys that pitched a lot of meaningful innings. Granted, it was boom bust, but they do get – it's kind of like Missouri where they have guys that have SEC experience. Granted, Freshcorn had a 5 ERA.
I think we run into that problem where Early wants to move Weston Moss to the rotation, and then we see a little Gabe Gackle. He's not a good starter. He's much better reliever. So
he pitched 5 innings, I think was his max, and he looked really, really solid, and it was in relief. He would pitch 2 times in a weekend. But like you said, there are some guys that are better bullpen guys. The lights shine a little bit brighter. But I'm really curious to see who fits that Miles Patton role of the guy that comes in on Sunday when we have pitching that really isn't strong, is tired and can go in and give us 15 outs. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if Shane can return to form post-injury, which is a big if with all these injuries, where does he slot in? Where does Carson Bailey slot in? I wanted to say I felt like they were going to get more from a pitching standpoint. But the flip side of that is, do they trust the guys that they have coming back? I think that there's a lot of guys that you and I expected to hit the portal that ended up coming back.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they were going to lose a lot more. I thought Ben Royo was on his way out, actually. I thought he would have transferred out or opted for the draft. I thought they would have brought in a little bit more pitching. I didn't think they needed to focus offensively. I thought they should have focused on pitching, especially when you lose the top D2 transfer portal guy, Dax Booth, to LSU, as he's at Angelo State. So that's just – I thought they would have brought in a little bit more pitching. That's just me.
Yeah, Kyron LeBlanc, Houston Tomlinson, Isaac Morton, I think were the big 3 that kind of shocked me, especially Houston Tomlinson. I was pretty excited. He kind of impressed me last fall. It's going to be, I think, a hitting first team. It's going to be, I think, an inverse of last year, which, 2 years ago when they went to Omaha, they were one of the best hitting teams in the country. Can they rekindle some of that magic?
Yeah.
Moving on to the Texas Longhorns, a team that had a long, long list of portal entries and guys who were drafted. I should say, and I need to remind everybody of the timeline that when Schloss took over last year, the portal was pretty much closed. So I think that this was his first true season. He went in and trimmed the fat, Rylan Galvan was drafted. Kimball Schuessler is out of eligibility. Jalen Flores was drafted. Max Ballou was drafted. Will Gasparino is out. Tommy Farmer is out. Oliver Service, Matt Scott, Easton Winfield, Jacque Stewart, and Cole Chamberlain. Kind of that revolving door before they found Jonah Williams. We'll start with the hitting. Do you think they did enough hitting-wise in the portal to solidify themselves at the top of the SEC?
Do I think they did a lot? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They brought in 6 hitters. They brought in 6 hitters to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. And really, 5 spots, especially if Jonah Williams plays baseball next year.
I should say Tenney's written in Sharpie going to be the catcher.
Yes, written in pen, he's going to be catching. And then shortstop, Timo Becerra, I think he's written in Sharpie too to play shortstop.
Yeah, that kid didn't transfer to sit on the bench for his last year.
Exactly. I'm a little like, and you look at the two big pitchers they lost, Jared Spencer, and I mean they in Moffitt, never mind, but Andre Duplantier. Like this is the first time that there's not going to be a Duplantier or pitching, still Jaden Duplantier, but they're just replacing 2 pitchers, and it feels like you're replacing hitters. And I think Callum Early's very good. I think Becerra's very good. I think Aiden Robbins is phenomenal. I think Livingston is phenomenal. I think Tinney's phenomenal. The one outlier I see, and this isn't me being like, oh, I've been covering LSU the whole year. This is me being me about Ashton Larson. The Ashton Larson transfer to Texas still makes no sense to me.
I thought it was weird that when we talked to agents for these guys that they were still in on a lot of these outfielders down the stretch that they ended up not getting.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know if that was agent talk trying to get them extra money, but from what I heard, Texas was still very much in the mix for that outfielder that they were chasing.
They were in on multiple outfielders. They were in on multiple pitchers. Like, I'm not mad that they didn't go out and get a starter because they already had their Friday night starter. They have Dylan Volantis. They have Jason Flores coming back. They have Max Grubbs coming back. They have Thomas Burns, Ethan Walker. They are bringing back a good chunk of pitching. That's what I'm trying to get back.
Grayson Saunier is another one. Caden Bing.
Yeah,
it felt like they retained the guys that they wanted to retain, and that the guys that they didn't want to retain, they kicked to the curb pretty fast. There was no late portal entries for Texas.
No. I mean, losing Tommy Farmer, Will Gasparino. Like
Tommy Farmer was benched, though. We should clarify that.
So losing Will Gasparino, that's not a big loss when you're bringing in someone like Aiden Robbins, Callum Early, Josh Livingston.
What do you think they do with Mendoza, Borba, and Rodriguez? Because there's 3 guys that are athletic enough to play in the field and play the field extremely well, but none of them are really outfielders. Like, I know they moved Rodriguez out to left. He's a pretty good third baseman.
In that case, like, I can maybe see them moving Adrian back into the infield or even having him DH and having Jonah in the outfield or Ashton out in the outfield. It's just like it's such a weird thing. Because, like, I just don't think Ashton Larson is a good fit in Texas. I thought, like, from what I heard nonstop, like, oh, he's going to Kansas. He's going to Kansas State. He's going back home. No one really saw him going from an SEC to an SEC.
I should say this, and I said this when he entered the portal, that there was a time in 2024
he was the
best hitter at LSU.
And, I mean, he understood his role this last year. He played hurt, and then he goes into Cape. He has another phenomenal Cape year. It's going to be tough. Like, I think Ashton Larson finds a way. I think Schloss finds a way to get him in the lineup. It's just going to be very interesting. Especially, it'll be very interesting because Ashton Larson's a very good kid.
They're pretty high on him, too.
And Texas goes to LSU this year, so I would love to see the fan reaction.
I would love to see that too, because here's the part that I think is a little bit weird is that Jay Johnson, after Ashton's freshman year, goes and gets Stanfield out of the portal, goes and gets Curiel.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, so you can tell that he didn't trust the Pearson, Brown, Larson, because he felt like there should have been like one of those guys was going to rise to the top. But I really like Tinney behind the plate. I know that we got a little bit sidetracked. Callum Early is, I think, another one. I think his brother's a major leaguer, by the way, when I was doing my research.
Yeah, he's with the Nationals.
Yeah, Connolly Early.
Yeah.
They didn't get any of those like low risk, high reward guys. I thought that was a little bit weird. They are absolutely loaded in their freshman class coming in, though. I should say that.
Yeah, that's always the one thing I always forget when I was like filling this out, because when I was filling this out, I'm like, should I mention the high schoolers they're bringing in? Like,
they did lose a lot to the draft, but it was one of those things where they were like committed in name only. Like,
yeah, they were committed for the clicks.
Who was the kid out of San Antonio that got drafted really high? The old kid,
the 19-year-old.
Yeah, what was his name? I can't think of his name. His name's eluding me. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we talked about him.
He was never going to Texas, and I think they even knew that.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting one. Again, it's always Omaha or bust for Texas. I was talking to a coach today, and he mentioned about this is another SEC school. He mentioned about the expectations that are at Texas. It's one where they got to go in and produce. Luckily, they have a pretty good squad. They have a fantastic coaching staff.
But the fact that this team was bounced in a regional last year, like, puts a very sour taste in my mouth.
They did win the SEC. That's the thing that I keep coming back to is they did win the SEC, and I don't even think it was that good of a squad. I think the coaching staff would even tell you that
they didn't make it to Omaha.
Omaha or bust, baby.
Yeah, they didn't make it to Omaha. They got bounced by an in-state rival.
That got bounced in a super, by the way. That team didn't even make it to Omaha.
Yeah, I'm still mad about UTSA not making
it. Moving on to the final team, the Vanderbilt Commodores, who are probably the talk of the town today when it comes to summer additions, as a lot of their guys really went out and excelled. They are replacing Riley Nelson, Jonathan Vastine, RJ Austin, Jacob Humphrey, Jaden David Mendez, RJ Hamilton, Mac Rose, who was one of my favorite players. He hit the portal. JD Thompson, Cody Bowker, along with Sawyer Hawks are all gone. Ethan McIlvain obviously is at Arkansas, but he didn't really pitch a ton. It's a small portal class. It's a lot of smart guys. It's a good freshman class coming in. But I think the one that we really do need to mention as I pull up their stats, let me see. Yeah, Riker Waite up there had a monster year on the Cape. Braden Holcomb had a monster year at the Cape. It's going to be another year where Ari is going to be asking about the power numbers, I think, for this Vandy team.
Well, let me read the text that our boss sent us the other day while he was up in the Cape. He said, Braden Holcomb has impressed me tonight. Not Mac Holcomb, Braden Holcomb. Riker Waite has impressed him. And my dog's barking. But yeah, like
he's impressed Reagan too.
Yeah, I mean, Reagan, come here.
She just loves Vandy baseball.
Let me mute myself for a second.
They do get Mike Mancini back. Again, from a portal standpoint, Max Jensen from Cornell, Logan Johnstone from Washington State, Jacob Faulkner from Princeton, and Carter Johnston from Cal State Fullerton come over. It's, again, this is Vandy. This is what we're going to come to expect. They're a team, if you remember correctly, they don't take any transfer portals, even though RJ Schreck was their 4-hole hitter a few years back. But they have three. They have a John Sten and 2 John Stones. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very high on this Vanderbilt team because the way Tim Corbin coaches. I'm a big fan of Nate Taylor coming in on the pitching side. Max Jensen, obviously, Ivy League guy. Jacob Faulkner, Ivy League guy. When I talked to Jay Ullman and Anthony Izio at Tulane, they're in the same predicament, actually, because at these high academic prestigious schools, they're talking about just like how hard it is to bring in some transfer portal guys because they need to have the 4-year layout of getting their getting their degree. If you come into a high academic school, you must get your degree in the remaining time you have in your eligibility.
The other side of that too is they can't take juniors that haven't graduated. It's either because so they can't take a junior / senior like a Gavin Cash who didn't have a degree. They can't. I mean, that was a player that he mentioned. Coach Corbin mentioned by name. It's like, yeah, this is a fantastic player because we can't even contact him because of the rules at our school. They do have the largest endowment in the SEC though. So as stuff kind of starts to get worked out for him, I don't anticipate Tim Corbin will ever be a big player in the portal. This even felt like a lot for them.
Yeah. I think I like what they have coming in. I think they did lose some big pieces, though. I mean, obviously losing J.D. Thompson, Cody Bowker, but you do bring back the big name to watch coming into this next year. On the pitching side is England Bryan. Like he is someone to watch, in my opinion. I think he can replace Sawyer Hawks very well. I think he has the potential to be in the starting rotation. I think Connor Fennell takes that jump next year. He was phenomenal in bits and pieces, but I think this Vandy team set up nicely, but I think they did do like a little more than what people were expecting.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like for the last 3 or 4 years that we've tried to lie to ourselves and say that we need to trust Tim Corbin. I think it's almost the inverse of it now, where they've had so many years where it's same old Vandy, not going to hit for a ton of power, scrappy team, where I think they're a little bit under the radar coming into this year.
Well, so you got to think about this. You got to think about Braden Holcomb, Brody Johnson. Those are 2 very young bats that are going to take that next step. These are guys that will probably be here 3-4 years and be looking like Jacob Humphrey, RJ Austin in that final year.
I have a rumor mill for you.
Spin it.
How would you feel about Brody Johnson playing short?
I mean, he's played that on the summer ball circuit.
That's what I was alluding to.
He's played that on the summer ball circuit and like going back to travel ball days. I think he played it in high school a little too.
But everybody plays shortstop in high school.
I didn't. Come on.
Every D1 infielder played shortstop.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. That kid from Corona, the one that got drafted, he didn't play shortstop because he was like Hernandez. The exception. No, the other one. Who's the other kid? The one that was like friends with Trout.
I've closed the book on the draft.
I know. Andrew and I's draft coverage is over, obviously.
I leave that to the experts.
That is all 16 SEC teams. We're going to be coming out with projected lineups, toughest and closest battles in the SEC. Andrew, as we change the book and move on into our fall coverage, final thoughts. So this is my first fall with College Baseball Central. I'm looking forward to just seeing how hyped the fans are going to get and overreact to some of the stuff we're going to see, because you got to take everything in the fall with a grain of salt. In the fall, we can put out our projected lineups on Monday for Arkansas, because I feel Alabama.
Like you want to do Alabama. So Alabama's like pretty, like you slide these guys in pretty easily, in my opinion. Like we could be completely wrong when it comes to oh my God, I'm blanking on their coach's name. Rob Vaughn. We could be blanking on what Coach Vaughn is thinking.
I did go back and look just because I was pulling it for a graphic. I did predict Terrence Keel and Jonah Williams as 2 projected starters last year. And Cam Kojal.
Oh.
And I predicted the breakout of the second Alloy. So I know ball. So tune in. Like I said, we're going to be having fall coverage. We're going to overreact to that Mississippi State, Florida State game. Little bit of advice. We're going to overreact regardless. So go ahead and tune into that. We're excited for the fall to kick off. A lot of these kids are starting to go in. There's still a little bit of portal stuff that I'm hearing about some kids that are kind of those fringe guys. But again, the portal's pretty much solidified for a lot of these SEC starters. I think what did 6'4" say? Every top 100 player is at a school.
Yeah.
There's about 1,500 kids that aren't at schools. But Andrew, thanks for joining me. It was exciting stuff.
Yeah, we're back.
Never left.